All right, guys, so we're going to start with 9A exercises today in this video. So let's get started. So 9A, the topic is third conditional. All right, guys, so the topic is third conditional. So what is third conditional? So third conditional, there are two things we should know about third conditional. The first thing is how it looks, or how do I recognize it in the sentences, right? And then the second thing is when am I going to use it, or how am I going to use it? Which situation I'm going to use that, right? So if you would like to recognize, or if you'd like to know what said conditional is, you should know that conditional sentences, they have got two parts. We call it if part, or we also say if clause. And then we have got a main part or result part or main clause, we call it, guys. So in if clause or if part, after subject, like I, so you use if, obviously, if, and then you put subject, right? Like I, you, he, she, or whatever the noun is. And after that, we should use something called past perfect. Past perfect. Past perfect is made up of had plus past participle. So when you got past participle and had, that is a past perfect. As you can see, if I'd known is actually the if I had known. If I'd known you had a problem, and then we got here like if Paul hadn't gone. You see, hadn't, negative, hadn't and gone. That is, we call them past perfect, guys. Okay, and the main part we should have would have or wouldn't have, negative, and then past participle. Would have plus past participle, or wouldn't have plus past participle. That's the main part. If clause can come first, and when it does, then you should put comma after that, and then the main clause. Or you can also put if clause second after the main clause. In that case, you shouldn't put comma in between. Okay. So again, the main clause should have would have plus past participle, or wouldn't have plus past participle. The if clause should have had plus past participle, which is past perfect. Right. In if part, you can never ever use would. Guys, you should not forget that. In if clause, we cannot use would at all. Right. And the main part, instead of would, we can also use could or might if I want to. For example, if I want to talk about the ability, I use could. If I talk about the possibility, I use might. Okay. Now, what is it, third conditional? In which situations are we going to use it? Third conditional, first of all, it is unreal conditional, we call it unreal. Talks about unreality or imaginary or hypothetical situation, something not real. And the second thing that you should know is third conditional we use for past happening. Something happened in the past. We talk about the past. When we talk about the past, in our imagination, then we use third conditional. So usually we use it for late advice, or we use it for regrets. We use it for late advice or regrets, guys. Something happened and you want the opposite to happen, but obviously in reality you can't reverse the time, can you? So because you can't reverse the time in the past, you could only imagine what would have been the opposite if it had happened, right? So that is third conditional. So we normally use third conditional sentences to talk about hypothetical imagined situations in the past, how things could have or might have or would have been different in the past. So I don't want to go too much in detail because I have already explained in the sessions. So to make third conditional, we use if plus past perfect, and then the main clause, it will be would have plus past participle. All right. So we can contract. When you contract, it will be I'd or he'd. So we don't say I had. And that's it. So we're going to jump on exercises to see how it goes, right? So now A is asking us to match the sentence halves. That's easy part. That's easy part. I mean, you can do it by logic as well. So the first one is Billy would have injured his head. D is coming here if he'd worn his helmet. Look, if he'd worn his helmet. So what is the reality? To understand them better, you should be able to think about the real situation of each third conditional. Here, Billy would have injured his head. Sorry, Billy wouldn't have injured his head. The reality, it means he injured his head. He injured his head. Why? Because he didn't wear helmet. He didn't wear helmet, and that's why he had injury. But now we're kind of imagining the opposite of it. If he'd worn his helmet, he wouldn't have injured his head. Okay. The number one, if I hadn't seen the speed camera. From here, I can understand that in the real situation, someone saw the speed camera, the reality. Someone saw the speed camera. Look, if I hadn't seen the speed camera, then here, I wouldn't have slowed down. Can you see that? I wouldn't have slowed down. So that means he or she slowed down because he or she saw the speed camera. That's the reality. Now, what would have happened the opposite if it had happened, right? Number one is going to be I. So we're going to write I down here. There you go. That's it. And then we're moving to number two. John might have got the job. John might have got the job. Yeah, if goes well here. If he'd been on time for his interview. If. So John was not on time for the interview, right? Because if he'd been, it means he wasn't on time for the interview. And that's why he didn't get the job. So now we're imagining the opposite. If he'd been on time for the interview, John might have got the job. Number three, she would have hurt herself badly. She would have hurt herself badly. Okay. So from here, I can understand that she didn't hurt herself badly because H is good here. If she had fallen down the stairs, H. That means she didn't fall down the stairs, right? She didn't fall down the stairs, reality. And she didn't hurt herself badly. But if the opposite had happened, if she had fallen down the stairs, then yes, she would have hurt herself badly, guys. Okay. Now we're moving to 4. If Katie and Luke hadn't caught the same train, they wouldn't have met. They wouldn't have met. So in reality, they caught the same train and they met each other. They caught the same train and they met each other, reality. But if the opposite had happened, they would have not met, right? Or they would have not seen each other. 5. What would you have studied? What would you have studied? If you had gone to university, A is good here. You see, if you'd gone to university, it means if you had gone to university. It means, in reality, he or she didn't go to university. And it's too late, and they talk about late things in imaginary situation. Number 6, how would you have got to the airport if the trains had been on strike? So we're going to put J here, okay, if the trains had been on strike. So the trains were not on strike. That's why he got to the airport on time. But the opposite, they're imagining. Number 7, if you'd worn a warmer coat, if you'd worn, or it means if you had worn, if you'd worn a warmer coat, you wouldn't have caught a cold. B. So we're going to write that B here. You wouldn't have caught a cold. Your parents would have enjoyed the trip, number 8, if they'd come with us. G. If they'd come with us. That's it. And would you have been annoyed? The last one. Would you have been annoyed if she had told the truth? So from here, I can understand that she didn't tell the truth. Now they're checking like, well, if she had told the truth, would you have been annoyed? And that's it. C is gone. So now we're finished with exercise A. Now we're going to move to exercise B. All right, now exercise B is asking us to complete the third conditional sentences with the correct form of the verbs in brackets. Correct form of the verbs in brackets. So as I have explained, if part we're going to use past perfect, and then the main clause or main part we use would have plus past participle or wouldn't have plus past participle, and we're just going to apply this rule basically. Number one, as you can see, like there is if here, guys. Yeah? If. So if clause starts from if, guys. Yeah, and you should know where to stop. I mean, that's good that we've been given the comma here. So here is the breaking point, guys. So the left side is going to be if part or if clause. The other side it will be main part or main clause or result clause. You can also understand this by logic in a way. Now here, from here there's a breaking point here. You see, so this side is going to be if now, if clause, which is past perfect. We should use. Number 3, here's the breaking point. And number 4 is here's the breaking point. You see, like I'm just showing you the breaking points to make it easier for you. Here, breaking points. So if the police, there's a comma, and then if you money, there's a comma. So the comma is the breaking point, or when the if clause comes in the second part, then breaking point is going to be right before F. All right, right before F. Here you go, guys. Okay, and don't forget that if clause starts from if. So that means in that area, we must use past perfect for third conditional, right? So let's start. Number 1, so if you, the first verb is negative, not take. The first one is not take. So if I want to make past perfect negative, that it would be hadn't taken, right? If you hadn't taken. If you hadn't taken me to the station. Now the second verb is miss. So that's a result part. And result part, as I said, would have, and then past participle of the main verb, which is miss is the main verb here. So I wouldn't, sorry, obviously positive. So I would have missed my train. I would have missed my train. You see, if you hadn't taken me to the station, I would have missed my train. Right? Number 2, now we, blah, 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 blah. And then we've got if the reference to this side, second verb, not give, because it's the second part, we're going to use it as past perfect, because now if clause is coming in the second part of the sentence, right? So not win, we're going to use as a result one, which means negative. So wouldn't have won. So we wouldn't have won. You can say we wouldn't have won, or when you say it fast, we wouldn't have won. We wouldn't have won the match if the referee, not give, so that would be past perfect negative, if the referee hadn't given us, you see, hadn't given us a penalty. Number 3, again, the second part is the if clause. So the first part is a result, which means would have plus past participle. So you would have enjoyed the weekend if you, now come, past perfect, if you had come. Let's make contraction this time. So we're gonna like if you'd, I'm gonna make like apostrophe D and write like that. If you'd come with us. Okay. Number 4. Now, if clause is coming first. So in if clause, we're going to use past perfect. Not by, that's a negative. So hadn't bought, it will be the right answer. So if you hadn't bought the theater tickets online, they be. So be and result part. So would have been. So they would have been more expensive. Number 5, Mike forget. So that's the result part. So Mike would have forgotten, right? Would have forgotten. Mike would have forgotten his wife's birthday if Now the if part is starting, past perfect. If she, so negative, not remind becomes if she hadn't reminded him. If she hadn't reminded him. Okay, number 6. So number 6 here, we're starting with if clause. So past perfect of arrive, the past perfect of arrive. So it's going to be if the police had arrived. If the police had arrived 5 minutes later, they wouldn't have caught. Okay, they wouldn't have caught the thief. Okay, so that's done. They wouldn't have caught the thief. And number 7, not lent. If you hadn't lent, if you hadn't lent me the money, I wouldn't have been able to go. The main part. So like I wouldn't, negative. I wouldn't have been able. So I wouldn't have been able to go away for the weekend, right? So number 8, that girl. So that is a result clause because if is starting from here. So fall, we're going to use in would have fallen. That girl would have fallen. That girl would have fallen in the river if you. So now if clause, we're going to use past perfect, negative, not catch, becomes if you hadn't caught. If you hadn't caught her arm, or if you hadn't caught her arm. Number 9, we, the hotel, it was like not find, not seen. So we, so like again, result clause. So we wouldn't have found, right? We wouldn't have found. We wouldn't have found the hotel if we, past perfect, negative, if we hadn't seen. If we hadn't seen the signpost. And then the last one is starting with if clause. So going to use the verb know in past perfect. So if you had, sorry, if I, yeah, if I'd known, if I'd known, as you can see here, if I'd known. So I use the contraction form now. Okay, guys. So here, if I'd known about the job, now they've got a result part. So I would have applied. I would have applied for it, right? I would have applied for it. So in this way, we have finished the exercise of page 148, third conditional exercise. So we're going to stop here. That's enough. And in the next videos, we're going to continue with the next page topic. All right. Well, thanks for your time and have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.